How you guys feeling?
The mug of questions. I'm quite nervous. Don't make me laugh.
Okay.
Sorry for baiting you out, by the way. I don't know why I did that story. I feel like I shouldn't have done.
3, 2, 1.
Hey, welcome to Ask the Pastor. This is a place where we discuss your questions about faith and life. We've got some brilliant people here with us today. Over here, we've got Joseph, campus pastor at our Nottingham location. We've got Fraser, campus pastor at our Loughborough location. And my name is Jonah. I'm the campus pastor at our Leicester location here at the Junction Church. And we've got some questions here. We're just gonna select one. How you guys feeling?
The mug of questions. I'm quite nervous because I don't know what the question is.
I know.
How you're feeling good about this
I'm feeling
question?
good about this. That's
feeling
good.
good?
Yeah.
So the question that we've got here is, what happens when my 5-year plan goes out the window?
Wow.
That is a good question.
Right, I'm going to backtrack and say I'm feeling nervous about the question.
You said you were feeling good, so I don't know. Maybe you should go first, Joe.
I should go first.
I feel like it's a really good question. Though,
It
right?
is.
Sure.
Because there's a lot of people that right now, their whole plans and perceptions of where they've been going in 2020 has very much been literally gone out the window.
Yeah.
And life looks nothing like what we had thought it would be. So maybe Joseph, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah. I think that is a very relevant question. I think majority of people would probably say that, their 5-year plan, so however long your plan is, has gone out the window. 2020 has certainly been a very interesting year, hasn't it? And almost, you could have done whatever plans you wanted to, but you got to some point in the year and you were like, it's not going to happen. And that can cause quite a lot of nerves. That can cause people to get quite nervous, to feel very uncertain, just feel like you've lost all sense of control of what's going on. But I mean, what do you do, when you find yourself in that situation? I think that's something I can relate to as well. I think we can all relate to that in some aspect. And what's really helped me is just keeping a perspective of faith. And what does that mean? You say, what's that? How do you do that? It sounds like the easy answer, and sometimes these things are easier said than done. But what that looks like actually is realizing that because we're children of God and because we trust in God and He's got His promises for us, there's always hope. And so, whilst the plans that we have may not be working out at the moment, it doesn't mean that everything's going to not work out. Change is not always a bad thing. I think that's one thing that's really, really good to understand, is that sometimes change can be quite a catalyst for good stuff happening. And I think just having that perspective that actually it's not all lost, I can still make something out of this. I think that's really helpful.
I love that, Joe, because I think you're right. We've all been there. I know, you guys are good friends of mine, and I know we've all been there when stuff's happened so unexpectedly. I mean, COVID season, probably it's thrown a spanner in everyone's works, right? Nobody is now sat, I was expecting this, and if you were, why didn't you give us a heads up? I don't know anyone who's expecting this, still waiting for the heads up on that one. But I think we've all been there. So it's important to know you're not by yourself. This is not, because we have this, I guess, tendency to compare our behind the scenes to other people's highlight reels. So it's something goes wrong for me, and then I look on Instagram at someone who I don't know doing really well, and it's like, wow, I suck. How is this guy a millionaire at 26? And I'm like, my bank account needs to touch the hem of Jesus' garment real quick. But I guess it's good to know that actually my 5-year plan is nothing compared to God's plan for my life. And I think that always really helps me in the perspective, those late nights when I'm awake and I'm worried about X, Y, Z, all those different things. My wife's pregnant at the minute. What are we gonna do when we have this baby? I've never had a child before. I can barely look after myself. I'm gonna look after an entire human being. It's getting kind of real. And I guess there's those nights when you wake up and worried, but then actually you realize God's got a plan. And this classic verse in Jeremiah 29:11, plans to prosper us and not to harm us. And I think we often quote that verse into our own situation, or we project our situation onto God, God, this is my plan to be a millionaire, so these are the plans that you've got for me, but actually, no, God's plans are better for me than what I've got for myself, so that always comforts me anyway.
Actually, to hold on to our plans lightly, but to hold on to God tightly, and actually, there you go. Do you know what though, because I remember for me, I had, this was a while back, we're going back to Jonah as a kid. My dream was to come to Loughborough University to do athletics. I was big into sport and stuff, you guys know this. And since I was 10 years old, I wanted to come and use that as a platform to really get into sport. But then unfortunately, due to injuries and stuff, that just didn't work out. But the thing was, I was in Loughborough. I was in the place where that plan had took me, and I didn't really know what to do in that circumstance. But looking back, I can see that something that was really good about that time was that it's okay for the past thing to lead to the next thing. It's, you know, the purpose that we have doesn't necessarily have to be actually accomplishing that goal that we set if that thing leads on to the next best thing that God has for us. Because, you know, for me, like, it brought me here to Loughborough, it brought me to the Junction Church, and actually from there my life has, you know, flourished since then. And so I guess a question from that though is that, like, it's very well to say that in hindsight, but what would you guys say is some best advice to help people to stick to God's plan in the midst of this?
I think that's a really good question. I think it's never wise to try to rush past the emotion of dealing with change or dealing with loss, because let's call it that, because you've lost something. You've lost. You might feel like you've lost a dream, or you've lost a path that you were on. But then, you know, what you said there was brilliant. You know, hold on to your plan slightly, but hold on to God tightly. And one way of doing that is actually allowing yourself to, I guess, grieve that. Allow yourself to go through that. Deal with the emotions. Don't box them away.
That's good.
Accept what's happened. But I also like to think that what can be really helpful is a touch of pragmatism as well, and kind of going, okay, so these are the cards that I now have. How do I best play them? There's nothing wrong with replanning. There's nothing wrong with going, hey God, this has happened, but I still trust in you. I still trust you've got something for me. These are the cards I have. How can I best play it? How can I replan? Okay, let's make a new 5-year plan. Okay, this has led on to something new. But being really, really intentional about dealing with the emotional side. How am I still thinking and looking forward and not holding on to something of the past? I think that's really helpful.
Like, in terms of like personality, right? So like, you maybe think stuff through. I kind of go with how I feel, and that can be good in sometimes, but actually really not great in other times. So actually, I need people around me like these guys who bring me back to some form of perspective. I mean, what's that quote? If you want to go,
if you want to go fast, that's it.
Go alone. If you want to go far, go together. I think it's nonsense, because actually, even if you want to go fast, I think you want to go with people as well, because actually they're going to get you there even faster than you would by yourself. Like, where are you going to get by yourself? Me? Nowhere.
You're right. I think if we're talking metaphorically, because I know for me that physically, directionally is not necessarily a strength. But we can leave that there.
Hang on. Can we add a story? So basically, we went on holiday, Jonah and myself, and we're in this apartment. Jonah comes out of one room, and it's very obvious. Like, a front door looks very different to like the living room door, right? I could see this all unfolding before my eyes. And I could have stopped it, I could have done. I was a bad friend in this time, but I had to, so I could tell the story. Jonah comes out with all the confidence in the world, walks out the front door of the apartment. Where am I? Oh, I'm out the flat. So yeah. But spiritually, he's there. So.
I have a very real life dependency on other people to help guide me in the right direction, I think, is basically the moral of that story. But now I feel like that's so true, and I think like that's something that I definitely appreciate about you guys, and to be honest, people in our church community, is that actually people love us enough to actually like have these hard conversations, and to almost like hear about like, oh man, like I'm not sure what to do here, I'm not sure where to go. I know for myself that actually Pastor Roy has been like huge in that sense, about 100%. Just enabling us to be able to speak and say, oh, I'm not sure about this. Okay, well, let's talk about it. Let's see, okay, like how can we keep God at the center here? I think for me, like that's crucial, is that actually if we're gonna step into God's plan for us, spoiler alert, always finishes with God at the center of it. You know? And so actually, like, if we're not moving in that direction, then we're almost leaning out of God's plan for our lives. And so almost like having those conversations with people, that helps us to lean into God and put him right at the middle of it.
You know something else? You can't go wrong with prayer.
Such a Christian answer.
It is such a Christian answer.
Ask the pastor.
But you know the shocking thing?
Who'd have thought? Ask the pastor, guys, pray.
Pray. You have any questions, pray about it.
Unbelievable.
But you know the shocking thing though is that so often we don't, you know, praying regularly about the stuff that's bothering you and about your 5-year plan going out the window. There's nothing that's too small to pray about. God cares about everything. And so take it to God in prayer and do it continually. And you know, the Bible talks about a peace that transcends all understanding. There's nothing like feeling peace in the midst of change. There's nothing like that. And that can be really helpful.
Yeah, I love that, because I was thinking that, like, actually, like, it can be really, like, we can get so worried in those times where like our plans kind of fall through, like whatever that might look like. We can get so worried and have this real lack of peace, like you said, but the Bible talks about peace that transcends understanding. That means it doesn't make sense to have this peace. Like I've had it before where I start worrying because I'm not worried because I've got this peace. Because like I should be worried about my situation. Yeah, so, and then I had to pray about, it was a whole like round kind of circle thing. But yeah, no, prayer's so powerful and prayer's, I guess, so poignant in that. But so, like to kind of circle back around to you talking about people, like it's so good to be around people because actually you start to realize that no one's got it all together. And like the more you kind of get to know people and actually do life with people, not just on a superficial level, but like on a deeper level. And that's why being like a part of a church community is so helpful because you start to think these people who've got it all together, you start to talk to them and you realize what they've been through. It's like, oh my word, there's so many people I can think of in our church who you would think, wow, that's where I want to be. But you find out how they got there, you realize it's not as plain sailing. I think we've got this almost like Disney kind of philosophy on life that we kind of go, you go to school, you get a job, you get your dream job straight away, you're doing everything you love, nothing that you hate, you've got an assistant, all of these kind of things, you get married, you have kids, nothing's ever a problem, you've got all the money in the world. And we have this philosophy on life, but actually, life's a whole lot more challenging, and actually doing it with people brings you that perspective, and also brings you that perspective that if they got through it, so can you too. So all that to say.
I love that. I feel like that's a great one to finish on. But yeah, amazing. Thanks so much for listening, guys. Hey, thank you so much for watching this video. We really hope that it helped you and encouraged you. And hey, if you like this video, we'd love it if you would click that like button and hit subscribe and that notification bell as well. That's gonna mean that you do not miss a single video that we put out. And hey, if you're looking for a little bit more inspiration, head to our channel. You're gonna see a whole service. We think it's gonna really uplift you as you go into the rest of your week. We love you. We'll see you soon.